Has decided to retire at the end of this season. It's got a big year coming up. Even after this fantastic Tour de France he's having with Mark Cavendish, he's going to be going to the Olympic Games, road and track. He's going to go to the World Championships. He will then race a home track World Championships later on this year in Denmark as well. So a very big 6 months still to come for Margot at the end of a career. And he put a lovely line in there to describe his career. He says, I was never the most talented. I'm certainly not the most talented, but I like to think I've got the best out of my talent with hard work. So nice stuff from Mirko. He will leave the peloton a very popular rider. Well, 156 Ks to go. It's very slow today, so this might be another popular change. I'm about to vacate the seat and the microphone. In comes Carlton Kirby.
Thank you, Rob. Well, they say there may be thunder. Well, let's wait and see. Extreme weather protocols are never that far away when you get a day like this because they have to be to hand. And Danny, it's rider safety that will be at the forefront of everybody's mind. We've seen some spectaculars. Thankfully, the attrition rate in this race has not been the highest that we've seen. You know, try telling that to Vlasov and exiting with his ankle and I think possibly a fuzzy head after the look of him the other day. We don't want any more of that, do we, in the wet roads potentially later on?
No, of course we don't. And there is this question mark over the final today, isn't there, with this kind of zigzag that the riders will have to tackle inside the last kilometre. But of course, we hope that everyone stays safe. And for Vlasov, there were more question marks because we did see him kind of wobble when he got back up on and tried to get on his bike. We didn't know at that time that he'd broken his ankle, but then I was actually listening to Geraint Thomas's podcasts last night, who said he was being sick in the race when he got back on the bike, and that can be, you know, a telltale sign of concussion. So yeah, I'm just glad he and everyone else stayed safe once he did get back on his bike. But of course, has now exited the race after finding out that he had broken his ankle. So it'll be a really big blow for the team and Roglic, of course, too.
Yeah, I mean, as Rob was saying earlier on, you know, we're not doctors, but he certainly looked worse for wear in many different ways. It could well have just been his ankle giving way underneath him that caused the wobble, but we certainly had some concussion concerns. Let's get on board, shall we, and see just how bad it was. Good Lord, Danny. We look at that. It was so nervous just watching that. As I'm back of my neck standing up yet again. We kind of only just settled our nerves in the rest day, and then you see the surface that they had to deal with. The problem was it was so variable. Nobody knew what they were going to have next. All right, we've got these white roads, but they were all so different, weren't they, in their composure?
They were different, and one of the first little clips that we had there was, I think, Sector 2, and a lot of riders were comparing it to, you know, the Koppenberg in Flanders, and it was like a one-day classics race. There was also the UCI that had put more gravel on the course, okay, to cover the potholes, but like you said, Carton, every single gravel section was very, very different, and the riders just didn't quite know what they were kind of letting themselves in for. And I am still on the fence with this one. Yes, of course, I understand that we're in the entertainment industry, we're here to put bums on seats and the eyes in front of the TV, but I think as a rider, and I'm taking this view from inside the peloton, you know, I think the opinion for most is that it is different. And if one of the big four had have lost time because of a puncture or a crash, it would have been terrible. We all want them to have a clear run and see a war in the mountains, don't we? So yes,
exactly
it was a
that,
spectacle. It was great to watch. Thankfully, no one did lose time. But yeah, I think it would have been a very much a relief, a sense of relief once that stage was finished for a lot of the riders.
I think you're absolutely right. Had there been any of the big names, no disrespect to those who struggled, but had any of the big names, those who are locked in battle for the GC, come a cropper on that stage, then it would have been remembered for something entirely different. The danger is, of course, it was so fabulous. It was such a great day of entertaining racing that it becomes the norm, in which case we're going to have to wait for it to go badly wrong before it gets ironed out of it again, I feel.
Yeah, potentially, and also, you know, the gravel, it's the big cool thing to do at the moment, isn't it? So, of course, for ASO, they're going to put a stage like that in the Tour de France. We get it every couple of years, don't we? And you're right, it was a spectacle. It was a fantastic race to watch, and ultimately, that's why these riders are here. They're providing entertainment. This is the biggest stage, the biggest race in cycling. So I see both arguments.
Me too. The arguments that rain down upon poor old Jonas Vingegaard, so his work rate, his input. You know, this is a man who's come back from serious injury in the Basque Country, and then all of a sudden he finds himself in a race where he's up against a team in UAE Team Emirates in particular, where he's probably likely to struggle when it comes to the mountains. He doesn't want to offer any favours to his arch rival, Tadej Pogačar. He was on a bike that didn't belong to him. Only 3 millimeters difference, apparently, to the bike that is owned by Jan Tratnik in terms of seat height. But that, Danny, to a pro, is a palpable difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And these riders will be able to feel every single millimetre that's out on a different bike. Even the saddles are very different as well, and the way that you sit on the saddle and how then that impacts, you know, how the material is formed. So he would have definitely felt a difference.
The more chances we will have a wet final, as it looks now. There will be coming in some thunderstorms.
There we are, a wet final. Well, I'm not quite sure who's going to thrive best, but Lidl Trek issuing a warning then. Interesting that with Lidl Trek, Mads Pedersen, of course, is out of the race, sadly. Ryan Gibbons gets elevated in terms of his duties, and he said, well, he finished 6th into Colombey, I think it was. Yes, he was, a bit when Gamay got his second victory. He says there is a new mindset that he's got to basically put himself into, the South African champion, to turn himself back from being a lead-out man to indeed being the man who is the last man standing. Danny, it is a very different role. It's been 5 years since he's actually been allowed to have a full-on sprint. I mean, 5 years except, I think, for the run to Colombey. He finished 6th there, but having a lead-out man who's used to threading through technical approaches, it could be, dare I say it, a brilliant day for the rank outsider amongst the favoured sprinters. Ryan Gibbons gets the nod for Lidl Trek.
Yeah, but sometimes this is the opportunity that these riders need, and because of obviously Mads Pedersen unfortunately having to exit the race due to that crash that he had, this gives a huge opportunity to Ryan Gibbons, who will now be able to somewhat freestyle off the other lead-outs and show us and the team what he can do. You know, he was 6th on stage 8. He's had 10 professional wins to his name. Double national champion, of course, in the road race and the time trial, and no pressure. He would have come into this tour being that lead-out man. So I think he'll thrive off that. And on a technical finish with that zigzag, this means that it is more open, and it will offer that opportunity to a rider like Ryan.
So there you go. Ryan Gibbons is the rank outsider today that you need to start hoving in on. Change of pace. Now, at the beginning, nobody really had the heart to dive into this. However, now, there's a certain sense that the day, Danny, is now being policed, and it's the sprinters teams who are at least offering up a modicum of control on the nose just for now.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to see for the remainder of this race. There are limited opportunities, and we've already had a few. So again, in that last week, I think there's only maybe one, if not any, opportunities for the sprinters. So this is a chance for them, so they will control this race. As we get closer and closer to the intermediate sprint, we'll see those sprint teams coming to the fore to control things at the front of the peloton, and then again when we get closer to those potentially dangerous parts of the race where it becomes more exposed, they'll be looking to take the victory today. And I can't see this going any other way than a bunch sprint. The wind isn't too strong either, compared to when we saw this race back in 2013, when it unexpectedly split to pieces in that final on exactly the same roads, I should add, as today's stage. It's only around 10 to 15 kilometers an hour currently. So yeah, I think it's going to be a day for the sprinters.
Now, we do have, in terms of action points along the way, we do have an intermediate sprint. It will be coming up in about 18 kilometres time. The significance of which we shall wait and see. I imagine it's possibly going to be well contented. Biniam Gamay, his team have described their battle plan as, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, there are, including today, 4 days where they need to finish in the top 5. Now that, as a benchmark, that's the line you've got to get over. Biniam Gamay is more than capable of actually doing that. 2 stage wins to his name. He's been outstanding in that green jersey that he now owns. He, of course, took control of it and then won in it. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on him today. Top 5 seems kind of modest aspirations, doesn't it, considering what he's done?
Very, very modest, Carlton. He's had an astonishing tour so far.
Yeah.
He's leading in that green points competition, 224 points over Jasper Philipsen's 128. So a huge doable target, you would say. And also the way in which he's riding on the harder days, on that gravel day especially. He was really, really strong to be there in that group. And then he beat Mathieu van der Poel in the sprint, who was trying to take points away from him in that final for his teammate in Philipsen. And if you look at the stages we've got left, this is the flattest day, but they're harder days to come on those sprint opportunities. So he's got a brilliant chance.
Yeah, big day coming up tomorrow, guys. Up and down all day. Make sure you don't all the basics today, because if you make a mistake today, then you pay for it tomorrow, obviously, okay?
All the basics. Make sure that the drinks are in the right place, the sustenance is where it needs to be, and nothing silly happens when we come to the twisty stuff at the very end. Welcome back, everybody. Well, a sprint day in the offing today, and a reasonably long day, 187 kilometres. No KOM points to tempt out the likes of, well, Abramson, to be honest. We have, though, an intermediate sprint along the way, and that will be coming up fairly soon, in about 16 kilometres' time. Danny and I, while some of you have been away, have just been speculating as to who it might be that takes that step forward. Biniam Girmay, his avowed aim is to finish at least in the top 5 in the remaining 4 sprint stages, of which today is one. And his Grenadiers have just issued a note to everybody just to keep the basics going. The basics, Danny, means pay attention, don't let any of the minor stuff like, I don't know, just remembering to drink.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting to point out, actually, with Ineos, they do these things right. They look after themselves, and on a day like today where it could be easy to get carried away as well and just kind of ride next to someone, have a chat, but actually when you're in the wind, you're using up energy that you're going to need, not just today, but in stages to come. So you have to try and keep your powder dry. It was interesting, I was listening to the podcast again with Geraint Thomas. I think it was after the second day where some of the teams, UAE being one of them, were just having a little mess around at the front of the peloton, attacking off the front. And he said, this is absolutely ridiculous. What is going on with modern bike racing? Because, you know, this is a 3-week race.
Yeah.
Why on earth are you using up all of this energy that you are going to need? So he was in the radio of his teammates, don't get drawn into this, because this is where, again, you can really lose out when it really matters. So really good point there from Zach Dempster, the DS and the team car of Ineos, just to say, come on, you know, keep a lid on this one. Look, it's so relaxed. They're almost on a club run here. But just make sure you're sheltered. You're on the wheel of someone in front of you. You're not using up any energy, and you keep fueling. Because you're not just fueling for today, you're fueling for the days to come.
Yeah, particularly tomorrow, actually, the run to Lorient. It's quite outstanding. We go up Pointe-Marie, and we have a bonuses as well in the mountains, the high ground at the end of the day. So if you've got anybody who is in contention for the overall, indeed starting now, I guess, Danny, when we get to, what, the 10th, as it will be the 11th day of the tour, you've got to start thinking potentially about places if you feel like the podium is just out of reach. Every single one of the top 10 is worth battling for, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. And then again, going back to Ineos with Carlos Rodriguez, you know, he's sitting in a really strong position on that general classification in 7th. And you would have to argue that the parkour so far hasn't suited his attributes as a rider. So they've got a huge amount to gain, where, you know, those placings behind the top 3, you would say, are still very, very tight indeed. We've got a huge day on day 14 and stage 15 collectively before that second rest day. So these are the days where you just have to try and keep quiet and look after yourself.
Looking after that green jersey and looking after Biniam Girmay, what an outstanding tour it has been for Intermarché Wanty. In fact, they must feel like all their Christmases have come at once, save perhaps for Gerben Tyson, who was the favoured sprinter on the day that Biniam took his first win. He was given a free card to play, and indeed surfed everybody absolutely beautifully on the right-hand side of the road to actually come home good. Gerben Tyson then, of course, dutifully helping out Biniam late on. Today's final approach is so technical. I think somebody like Gerben Tyson, who can really get himself into a decent position, might be an absolute gem for Biniam Girmay. We'll be talking about the approach formations of some of those teams in a short while. First of all, we're going to hear from Mywhoosh, who is speaking to us now.
Mywhoosh, first and foremost, how was it yesterday finally to say it out loud that this is your last Tour de France, this is the last season? Because I know, even though you are up in a certain age, it's not an easy decision.
Of course, it's very emotional to at some point say goodbye to what have been a big part of my life. I really enjoy it so much still, but I also feel it's the right time after this season to draw a line. And of course, yesterday has been an amazing day with so many nice messages, so many good words from everyone around. So I've been very enjoying it.
And Michael, I know this is a tough question to answer on. You've had a long and successful career. What is your best memory as a cyclist?
Oh, well, it was probably to do the professional 6 days of Copenhagen. That was where my dream started. And obviously to win the Olympic gold in Tokyo 3 years ago.
Good luck today, Miguel.
Okay, thank you.
I love the fact that the 6-day racing, I was just about to mention him, I hope he has a couple more seasons of 6-day racing. Sometimes you can extend your career in that. It's a phenomenal form of racing. Of course, you can enjoy the Track Champions League here on Discovery Plus and Eurosport, so do make sure you tune in for that at the end of the season. Well, you think it's the end of the season, it carries on, and you never know. I'm just hoping that Mywhoosh indeed continues to shine like that. Fabulous. Adam Blythe, as we welcome you, that Mikkel referenced the 6 days amongst his greatest achievements.
It is, yeah, 6 days, I think, for bike riders like Mywhoosh. They are huge for them, you know, and especially there's a 6-day in Copenhagen.
That's
and
the one he referenced, yeah.
A very long Madison race, 100 kilometres long on the track, which is ridiculous. But it's always one that I know he's enjoyed doing, and he always loves riding on the track. He always has done, and he's very, very good at it as well. And I think when you're very good at something like he has been for the lead-ups and the track riding, it's always good to have those fond memories like he has of it, because they mean so much to him, because he was obviously flying at the time.
Yeah.
You always remember the good stuff.
You do, thank heaven. You know, that's what this sport is all about. And we've had so much good stuff, Adam, from the very beginning. I mean, starting off with 2 French wins, we got a double victory for Girmay. We had all the drama with Turgis coming through and just dominating that final phase of a breakaway that looked like it was absolutely shredded. We had all the principals together racing over what was a devil of a surface. And, you know, that's without mentioning Pogacar's victory, Mark Cavendish as well, of course, hitting the magic 35. This race has had just about everything, hasn't it?
It's been incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah, we've had so many stories. There was a lady that's come into the office who works for Warner Brothers here, and she was just asking how the race went, and it's been unbelievable from start to finish. It has been incredible, you know, right from that very first day up until the gravel stage. It's been like a one day almost every day. There's been that much excitement involved with it. So yeah, we've been very, very lucky, and whoever's done the route this year has done it absolutely brilliantly, because it's just been non-stop action. And even on a day like this, you know, nothing's happening. There's no breakaway up the road. And
Hello.
oh, as I say that,
All of a sudden, they've decided that this is now. I don't think this is a bit of hilarity either. They mean this. Danny, finally we've got some action. We've been paced up just a little bit. We're hitting 54 kilometres per hour on the little downhill runs into villages. But finally, somebody's decided to grab the day by the scruff of the neck.
Yep, 2 Lotto riders and Intermarché rider, of course. And these 2 teams are 2 of the favourites for today, with Arnaud Delis, who's come very, very close, and then Biniam Girmay as well. So these 3 looking to just put themselves off the front. Also, that intermediate sprint is coming up, isn't it? In around 11.5 kilometres time, with 130.2 to go. So I don't know if this is going to stay out there for long. A lot of teams and riders looking for those points.
I think this is possibly a bit of insurance gone up the road here, especially for Biniam Girmay's teammate Adam. You know, if he can't have the points, then make sure nobody else does.
Yeah, exactly that. And we've got Harm van Hoeken there from Lotto Destiny, and I think it's Max, and Harm van Hoeken as well. And I'm not sure who the Wanty rider is, but it's they're laughing while they're doing it. They're not really taking it too seriously. And it wouldn't surprise me if they started to sit up. You can just see from that helicopter shot right at the top of the screen, they were just sat side by side by side. So maybe just having a little bit of fun.
But this is what I was alluding to a minute ago with having fun, you know, and the Ineos Zach Dempster coming over the radio. Like, they shouldn't be doing this because it's just energy that they're wasting. If it's not for, you know, a purpose to get themselves in the breakaway, then what are you doing? You're just wasting unnecessary energy that your teammates are going to need in the final or in days to come.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to the crunch point into the final, if they're just missing that extra little bit of speed or that extra little bit towards the finish, then yeah, I can imagine they'll be frustrated. But I think, as you can see, sitting up, slowing down, we have to remember that we talked about on the breakaway show this morning, the guys doing an opening sprint, you know, really ramping it up and doing that opening. That might have been their opening. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. It won't have taken too much out of them. But Danny is right, you know, if you imagine yourself as a rock, and in each stage of the race you chip a little bit off that rock, the harder you try for unnecessary points, the bigger that chip is, and the more of a whole rock you need through each stage. So yeah, you just want to save, not just for today, but for the whole tour.
Adam, on that point, when do we start to worry about Tadej Pogačar and the impact that the Giro had upon him? He looks phenomenally strong at the moment. Could it be that those little chips that you talk about may well indeed start to show deeper into this race?
I think so. Through like the recent years in history, Carlton, and everything, how bike riding's gone, you know, if someone's done the Giro, they always tend to slow down towards the end of the Tour de France. We see more attacks coming off the front, so it's enticing people to go off. 2 Francis de Giro riders this time, Groupama riders, sorry. It's starting to get interesting.
You know, if it was a joke, it might well have backfired, quite frankly. Let's see. You can never tell, Danny. It's exactly what you were saying. Keep it sensible.
Yeah, this looks different to me. The intent of these riders looks very different as to what we saw previously. But just back to the Tadej Pogačar point, I think, you know, I think differently to what Adam was saying. You know, I think he is a very special individual when it comes to being able to do the double. And from what we've heard from him, he seems very confident. He is, of course, in the yellow jersey, leading so far. So the best position you would argue to be in. And he said he's feeling better than he's ever felt on a bike. So if that is the case, then that is remarkable.
He was in that trio of argument, can we put it that way, between Evenepoel, Vingegaard and Tadej Pogačar. He was kind of the neutral party, wasn't he? He was riding along with Evenepoel, who was haranguing at both Vingegaard in particular, and Tadej Pogačar. The heat was off Pogačar, I think. He was just in marking mode. He didn't look overly stressed. However, Jonas Vingegaard was on somebody else's bike, so the ultimate excuse is very much thinking the long game, and that's the way he's got to be, because it's such a long road back from his injuries that I don't think even he knows for the time being, Danny, where he stands just yet.
No, I don't think he does, but I think he will be very, very confident, and what he was doing there was sticking with the game plan. He had absolutely nothing to gain from working with Tadej Pogačar and Remco Evenepoel. It was only going to go one way, and that would have been him losing time in that instance. So I think actually for Jonas there are less question marks than there were at the start of this tour. He's been, you know, really good, as have his team. And then for Tadej Pogačar, he was racing aggressively. We love watching him race, but will that become unstuck in the final week?
We shall see. Well, they've got a minute on the peloton, this team. The pursuers who are on their case at the moment, sitting at 22 seconds. So if it had started as a kind of a loose arrangement, it's starting to firm up here, and that's always the danger, which is why the teams have been offering up their opinions as to who should and shouldn't go. Brett Van Moor is in at the front group with Kobe Goossens. We have Kevin Genier, who is chasing into that gap, and indeed we have Maxime Van Gils. So 2 from Lotto Destiny. We'll see how that impinges a little bit later on. Neither of them are part of the lead out for Arnaud Delis, who did far too much over the last couple of days, I'm afraid, of racing. Delis showing perhaps, Adam, is inexperienced when it comes to Grand Tours.
It's hard to say really in that sense with the inexperience. I think for him, he's learning, is a quick learner. Yes, he has got inexperience, but I think for him, he's got the legs and he's got the form. I think if he was a young guy coming into a Grand Tour, then the experience would show. But I think the level that he's at, that inexperience in a way is just learning for him. You know, I think it's just being able to save when he can save, use the energy when he doesn't want to use that energy. And I think for him, like I said, he's got such good condition and he's able to win a stage. He's been so close so far that I think that, is it fair to say the inexperience of these young guys, we're only going to really see it on the big mountain days when they go deeper than what they have to, when they don't realise they can save that bit more of energy. But I think day by day in these sort of days, they are treated as almost one-day classics, which we all know. He's got a great deal of experience and he's been very, very successful in them as well.
He has been chasing down, looking a bit headless on occasion and kind of ran out of energy on a couple of occasions. Energy I think that he possibly could have used later on. But yeah, he is a quality rider. I think he's got a great chance today. Clearly, Alpecin de Koenig, Danny, believe that they've got a chance and they're interested in sprint points as well. We'll be there in 6 kilometres time. Best available would be, 11 points for finishing 4th across the line on the intermediate. An opportunity missed because of these guys that have gone up the road, I think.
Yeah, it is an opportunity miss, and it'll be interesting to see what the gap is when we get to those sprint points. But of course, they have to go for it with Philipsen, and he's going to be all guns blazing for the final as well. He must be so frustrated. You would imagine from the tour so far, 2 second places, and then that one disqualification on the day where he impeded Wout van Aert in the final. But they'll be looking to take points exactly wherever they can here, because they are running short of Biniam Girmay, who's been, so impressive so far.
Just going to welcome back our wider cycling fraternity as we're hitting 45 kilometres an hour now, which was our medium pace for the day finally. Welcome back, everybody. A little bit of life being shown in the peloton because we have a race up the road with Brent Van Moor and Kobe Hussens chasing in. Kevin Genietz, Valentin Madouas now, and Maxime Van Heels. It's a trio who are in pursuit there at the 30-second margin. That may well indeed be trimmed down just a little bit by Alpecin de Koenig, who have woken up to the fact that Jesper Philipsen needs to basically deliver something when it comes to every single intermediate sprint and every single opportunity that he can get to get some big points. 50, of course, for the winner at the end of the day. There's 20 on offer at the intermediate. It goes 20, 17, 15, 13, 11. If they don't catch the intermediate group, who are at 24 seconds at the moment, in the next 4K, it means the best points available are 10. Now, Biniam Girmay and his team, their avowed aim over the remaining 4 sprint stages of this race, might have some quicker other days as well where he might have an impact because he doesn't mind a little bit of a ramp at the end of the day, but nonetheless, 4 sprint stages on their cards. They want to finish in the top 5. That way, they think that will be enough to guarantee the green jersey, or at least give them a big shout at it. In that competition at the moment, Biniam Girmay leads on 224 points, as opposed to Jesper Philipsen, who's on 128. That is a huge deficit, Danny, and Philipsen knows he's got to start assembling points wherever he can find them, and this intermediate sprint that's coming up is an opportunity.
It is, it's a huge opportunity, and it looks like they aren't going to catch the riders out in front here with 28 seconds and then 1:16 to our leaders. So it is points that they've missed out on here. Jayco Alula, another team that are going to be, or come to the front now for their sprinter, and Dylan Groenewegen, who is of course already had a stage win. So they'll be running on momentum here. But yeah, for Philipsen, he's going to be somewhat desperate, you could say, at this stage, really hoping to tick that box and take a stage win.
Adam, how busy do you think Binny will be today in this intermediate?
Busy enough, he'll be there and kicking around. I think, as Danny's just mentioned for Philipsen there, I think these points are important, but I think the stage win's way, way, way more important for this. Even with these guys going out the front now, he isn't going to be stressed about it. His team are not going to be stressed. They were going to ride today anyway. So I think they're just carrying on as what they were going to do with a break out the front. I think once you get that stage win ticked off, and then start to look at the green jersey again, but there's no point in just trying to throw everything and catch this break, for example, just for the sake of a few points, and maybe tire himself, not tire himself out, but could have an accident, whatever it might be leading into this sprint. So I'd say for Alpecin and him, main priority is the win today, and this is scrape up whatever you can get. For Vinium, yeah, of course he'll try and get maximum points, of course he'll try and extend that lead, but he's not going to go into the red and do so.
I think whatever is done here by Jesper Philipsen for the 10 points that's going to be available, assuming that the 5 riders who are in front of them go over the line and take the 2017, 15, 13, 11 points up for grabs there for them, the top 5 positions, it kind of started to feel like small beans. But there are some who are quite close at hand. On at the lead trails Anthony Turgis, who of course won yesterday by 6 points, so he may well revolt up to nudging up against the podium positions. Jonas Abramson, of course the eternal breakaway rider, sitting in the in 3rd place at the moment. Don't be surprised if he gets a little bit of a bead on, as they say, and goes for it. But it's going to be hovered up by these guys. We'll see what happens behind them. We are nearly there, actually, about 1,500 metres away from that intermediate, and a relatively benign approach to this. Very, very different to what we're going to be dealing with at the end of the day, Danny.
Yeah, very different. It's a really straight, non-technical run into this sprint on this road that you can see the riders on now. And then in the final, it's, yeah, a little bit sketchy, you would say, with that kind of zigzag left and right inside the last kilometre. So it will be hugely hectic into that left-hand corner. All the sprint lead-outs will be doing what they can to make sure their leader is well positioned into that left-hand turn. We've also got a little bit of a launch pad, so with 10 kilometres to go, there's a climb of around 2.5 kilometres, it's only about 2-3%, and it is a straight run into that. So I don't think it will cause, you know, many difficulties for the sprinters, but you might see a team like Lotto Destiny just trying to put the hammer down to maybe put some of the more pure sprinters, you could argue, on the back foot there.
There we go then, pick it up, and Jesper Philipsen. I think apart from anything else, he'd like to make a statement.
A little shake of the head from him there, though, Carlton, which is interesting. He's still not moved on to the wheel of Van der Poel. Van der Poel's up there. He's obviously last lead-out man. He's ramping it up, but he's in a good position. But that just little shake of the head. One of the teammates at the front on the radio. I'm still intrigued to know why Brent Van Moor has gone in the break today. I know it's a possibility that peloton maybe relaxing a little bit too much, but it's a Tour de France stage up for grabs. They're not just going to let it pass them by. No, why not? You're absolutely right, Adam. You know, if there's gifts on the table, then help yourself. So the cruise through at 50-odd kilometres per hour. Kobe Housens takes it ahead of Brent Van Moor. See how they kick on. Looks like these guys have kind of lost their heart just a little bit. Are they going to get snaffled just at the very death here? Kilometre to go, might be, but it's going to take an extra bit of effort, Adam, for them to be bypassed here in the dying moments of this intermediate. You can see the speed difference, so Carlton running into this sprint. Alpecin on the left-hand side of the road. Astana moving up with Mark Cavendish, just that second wheel there. You can see him in the middle of the screen. Deli right towards the front as well. So there are teams that are starting to ramp this up massively, and there we go. The catch is being made relatively easily, and now it's a sprint behind for these bonus points, the green jersey points that are up for grabs. Cavenarts leading Deli. You can see the Belgian tricolor just coming up on the right-hand side of the road. Philipsen is trying to take the guide here from Mathieu van der Poel, the world champion, centre of the road. Double checks on himself here. Arkea in the way just momentarily. He's still got the drive, though, from the world champion. And Philipsen on the release right now. In a good position. Binyam Gabay is tracing him. Almost on a tow rope, I think, as they come to the line. Gabay almost down into the barriers there. Goodness me. And Philipsen, once again, just ahead of Gaviria, I think, as indeed there was a sit-up there for of course, Gamay, but that was a sketchy moment. Now, he has been roundly criticised and indeed relegated for lateral movement in a sprint. I don't know whether it's deliberate, but he just seemed to wobble there, Adam. That wasn't good. It wasn't Philipsen's fault, nothing to do with him by that first look at it. I think the main thing was, if you look at the barriers coming up on the right-hand side here, there's no barriers, then they go to metal barriers, and then at this point, the metal barriers, and just as he steps out here, that's when the barriers really start to come out a little bit, you see. Yeah. So it looks a lot worse than what it was. I mean, Philipsen there, we can argue moved a little bit, but the barriers stepped out way more than what Philipsen moved. Philipsen, for me, there did nothing wrong.
You're absolutely right, Adam. There was a pinch on the barriers. I never know the wisdom of that because it looked like it was by design. Sometimes you get crowds impinging and they can actually push the barriers just a little bit, Danny, but that was a sudden narrowing. I don't perhaps think they expected it to be so busy. It wasn't wide.
No, it wasn't, and I did take a little bit of a deep breath there, but there was absolutely no intent from Jasper Philipsen, like Adam said. You know, he did take a look over his left-hand shoulder, so he did move very, very slightly, but I think it was made worse by that little pinch point in the barriers there.
Gosh, well, heart rate can now settle down just a little bit. What can we expect from the remainder of the day until we get to the drama of our finale? I must admit, I'm not overly sure why they put in a little excursion within the last kilometre. We take on two sides of what looks like an equilateral triangle to bring ourselves back to our finale. There is a climb, as Danny was mentioning. Also, Matt said that it's actually got sections within it of 5%. That comes with, what, about 7 kilometres to go before the line, maybe a little bit less than that, peak of it.
Yeah, it comes with 7.5 kilometres to go. They then descend down to 5.2, and then the last 5.2 is totally flat. But like I was saying, it's a very fast run into that climb. So I think with the momentum and the lead outs that the teams will have, that it shouldn't cause too much of a difficulty.
Well, let's hope not. When you accidentally find yourself on holiday, as John Harris Bass's favourite movie, I believe, with an eye. He's going to give me a nod in a minute. I believe that's his favourite. Anyway, we'll be hearing a lot more from John today, certainly a lot more than we heard from him on stage 9, when basically it was all hell breaking loose from the very start until the stop. You know, the thing that worried me most about stage 9, Adam, was the fact that they'd put new gravel, which was limestone chunks, which they used to use at the edge of school playgrounds and the like, to stop you, I think, climbing the walls and things. These things had actually tumbled down their little hills, and they were quite deep on the entry into some of the corners. I'm just pleased we all got away with it.
Well, that's the main thing, Carlton, that they did all get away with there. Just interesting there, Carlton. Harman Hooker just trying to take up. I had a little inkling that this might happen. Just try and take some points away from the riders for Dali there, his teammates. So Harman Hooker taking 17 points, but even that, Dali is not even in the top 5 here, top 10. He's not even there either. So even though one teammate, but even one teammate just up the road taking larger points from him, he didn't really try and contest that much. So weren't taking too much out of Van Hooker there to go in that break, but you'd have thought that Dali, if that was the plan, that he'd have tried to take as much as possible.
Indeed. William Guimai with a good deal of insurance. I know it looked like he'd been balked there. It was the barriers, the encroachment, the little squeeze, as Alan pointed out. But yeah, William Guimai will have considered that a job well done, Danny.
Yeah, of course. So 224 now over Jasper Philipsen's 128, and that's what he's got to keep doing, hasn't he? Picking little points as and when he can. You know, the finish will be a big one. He's got that momentum, but he's got the power and the legs to do it. Like I said before, he's been really, really impressive to me, not just in the flat finishes, but also over the undulating terrain throughout this Tour de France so far, which is going to put him in a really strong position for his quest for the green jersey.
Yeah, 224 was his starting point today. I don't think we've quite factored in the points yet. Just waiting for the commissaires to sign it off, and then we will give you those updated points differences. But nonetheless, it is a vast gap that William Guimai holds going into today's finale, and don't count against him at the very end. He's been extraordinarily spirited, and that climb at the last, Adam, won't mean anything to him.
It won't do, no. It will hurt the legs, that's for sure, but he's just able to deal with that pain a little bit better. He's more adapted to these sort of little inclines in the road. We know he's a very punchy rider. Look at Quebec last year, he was an absolute monster coming into that finish. But I don't know if Matt Stevens is listening to us on that motorbike at the minute, but Matt, if you are, it would be good if you could check what Harm Van Hooker was doing, and if it was to take points away from the top sprinters for Dali, and understand why Delis didn't really contest the sprint there. Cheers, mate. Hopefully he's listening. If not, I'll text him.
I'm sure he is. Harm van Hoek, yeah, just backing out of this break for the time being. And Jonathan, we're in. Where are we? It went away too quickly.
I'm glad you're right. We're in Romorantin-Longtenay,
That's the
and we can look at this spread. And Carlton, if I was to ask you to describe what you can see right now, what would you say?
I would say very flat terrain, a beautiful avenue here. I don't know what those trees are, but are they palms, John?
I actually don't know. It wasn't the fauna that I was going for. It's actually, and this is where I was fascinated to discover
The Longeurs?
This is the capital of Sologne, and it could have had a very different destiny, because back in 1516, Louise of Savoy employed Leonardo da Vinci to turn the town into a modern Rome, or even a new capital of France. Now, what you have just seen doesn't look like a new capital of France, and that's because, unfortunately, Leonardo da Vinci died. And so it never happened. But it could have been a great awakening. But I have to say that pronouncing Paris is quite a lot easier than saying Romorantin-Longtenay.
They'd have probably shortened it and made it a bit more snappy, I think. Welcome back, everybody. Kobe Hoosens, who's now been abandoned off the front, is now beaming back to base, saying, I don't know, beam me up, Scotty. He's got a minute on the peloton at the moment. Harm van Hoek, who we assume was trying to snaffle some major points off the rivals to Arnaud Delis in the breakaway. Arnaud not getting the best of finishes in the intermediate sprint, finished in 10th. Didn't see how he was bumped and balked, if indeed he was, or whether it just wasn't worth the candle he's holding on until the end. They will have lit many a candle in this part of the world back in the day, as John Harrisbass has just been regaling us. This area apparently was supposed to be funded so it became as magnificent as Rome. Well, without 7 hills, like Rome, or as Adam Blythe well knows as well, like Sheffield as well. It would have had, they would have needed a lot of excavation work to make it like Rome, and possibly quite a bit more to be spent as well.
A lot more. Just interesting there, Carter. I know I mentioned Van Hoeken there, trying to get points for Delis. Kobe Goossens there, who's in the front from Monty, he's done exactly the same thing. The difference is Gamay was further up the rankings, and he's in the green jersey. So maybe read into it a little bit that Gamay is not as confident in his super fast sprints.
Jasper Philipsen, first and foremost, how was the rest day?
Good, like new now, so fresh legs.
What did you do?
Rest. Yeah, I had some time with the family also. Yeah, we had a easy ride, and yeah, just relaxing on the bed, watching a series.
And a possible bunch sprint today. The run-in today looks very interesting. Also, if you look at your team with Mature, it's quite technical. How do you see the run-in, the free turns before the finish?
Yeah, I see we have a straight line, and we make a deviation. Maybe to stretch the peloton out a little bit. So yeah, we know it's crucial, and like the other teams are, they know as well. So yeah, something to take into account.
I know, Jasper, obviously you would have loved to have a win or two already in the tour. It's a bit different compared to last year. How is it that you don't have a win already in the Tour de France?
Yeah, the tour is still some days, so like 2 weeks ago, and it was not like last year so far. So, but yeah, we try from this week on again, and we see what happens.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Asked how he spent his rest day, the answer was resting. You get the feeling, Danny, that his legs are in the right place, and maybe his head has slightly been distracted by the fact that the wins haven't come, not as easily, but as regularly as they did last year.
Yeah, potentially, and we're talking about this, and the team and himself needing that win to just gather that momentum. You can see a problem here for Jonas, but no stress whatsoever. Always find it interesting to listen to what the riders got up to on the rest day. So individual, and I just saw Chris Harper from Team Jaco Lula did 137 kilometres yesterday in the rest day. Some some riders needing a lot more than others, but clearly had the time to recover. Unlike maybe a rider like Tadej Pogačar in those jerseys, which would have had to have they would have had to have had a press conference, a lot more attention around them. So for Philipsen, he would have been able to spend a lot of the time on his bed, seeing loved ones, watching whatever it is that he likes to watch, a series that we just mentioned there. So I think the start to this stage as well was welcomed by a lot of riders. So a nice, easy, relaxing morning as we get closer and closer to the finish, and that tension's going to keep building, isn't it?
And different riders cope with rest days in a different manner. Some regard it as a rhythm breaker, and they'd almost rather do without it, even over 3 weeks. And others really relish the rest. It's a strange one. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks, Colin. How are you?
No, I mean, how were you when you were riding when it came to rest days?
Fresh is best for me, Carlton. I like to put my feet up properly, just go out for an hour, cruise along, maybe get behind the car for 15, 20k, shake the legs out a little bit. But yeah, I want it to be fresh. But each rider is different. I saw Victor Campenaerts, he had his freshly born son down there with him, and he didn't even touch the bike yesterday. And I think, you know, we have to remember the rest days, what you do on a rest day is very much influenced on what the stage is the day after that as well. So for example, this day, they all knew it was flat, so it's not going to be like climbing straight up a hill or into a time trial or anything like that. As we see a replay of the sprint here, on the right-hand side, Philipsen and my right on his wheel, but just watch that barrier kick out ever so slightly. It's at this point here, nothing to do with Philipsen there. He was in the trajectory alongside that barrier, and Gamay could see it. Luckily braked, but for me, Philipsen did absolutely nothing wrong there. It was just the barrier's fault, and if they want to make it safer, you're going to have to put those barriers further and further out with the logos on them. But yeah, Victor Campenaerts did absolutely zero yesterday on the bike, and if you look at today's start, he probably had a good look and thought, I don't need to do anything, I'm going to take a proper rest.
See, I was totally different. I used to have to do, you know, a good couple of hours with efforts, because if I didn't, my body would go into complete recovery mode and I would feel terrible. So yeah, okay, for some of the riders, Jonas, you can see here at the back, just getting himself back onto the peloton. They would have had today to find their legs again. This will be a day for them to just stay safe. But yeah, unfortunately for me, I had to do a lot in a rest day.
Well, yeah, you're in good company, because whenever we used to be on site and have our rest days, Rob Hatch, Doug, our producer, plenty of others, used to hire bikes and go out for a ride. And I used to seek out Carlton Miggles and go and seek out a chateau and buy some wine.
Don't blame you, Carlton. That sounds lovely to me.
At the end of the day, they all looked magnificent, glistening in the evening sunshine, and I just looked moderately refreshed. Anyway, there we are. Different beasts for different days. 120 kilometres to go, and Abramson, who had there been any peaklets today, would have been up in the breakaway. Surprised he didn't contest the sprint. He's still very well placed in the overall classification as far as the points are concerned. An update for you. Binim Gamay picked up 13 points out of that last sprint, and he is on 237 points. And Jesper Philipsen got 15 points, finishing a couple of places in front of Gamay there, and he is on 143. Abramson, holding station, got no points there on 107. Closing in on him, Turgis, who buoyed on by his success on the white roads, is now in 4th place on 101. He got 5 points in the intermediate sprint. Onadali got 6 points. He hasn't busted 100 yet. He's on 98. So that may all change at the end of the day. We've settled down. Time for some snack, as they say, up in the Yorkshire Dales. And as a result, it's recipe time from John Harris Bass. John, it's slightly miserable. Have you got a casserole for us today?
I haven't got a casserole. I'm still actually recovering from you suggesting that Sheffield was the Rome of the North. But
they say in Sheffield, built on 7 hills, just like Rome. That's where the comparison ends, obviously.
Of course they do. Yes.
John, I've missed these recipes. I'm looking forward to it, mate.
Okay, well, I'm delighted you are, Adam. Today is a tartlet au poire, which it's quite a complicated one to make.
wind is coming from a cross tailwind, kilometre 58 to go. So from there on in, it is going to be very, very difficult to move up. All the GC teams, the sprint teams will want to be towards the front, so if they can get in that position early and hold it, it's going to make their life a lot easier.
Yeah, I think what he was alluding to as well is at 118k, so only, well, 800 metres time, they're going to turn left into a cross tail, and there are some exposed sections as well, so it will make it a lot harder to move up into that kind of tail cross rather than the headwind or head cross that they're currently riding into.
He was top of it. Very nice to see him. Also, we're getting some images from the end of today's stage where the rain is very hard indeed. How's that going to affect things?
Quite a lot is the simplest way to put it. It always influences the race in a different kind of way in each situation. So in this situation here today, with the sprinters and the GC teams up here, the stress is going to be paramount, and I think that's going to be one of the main factors throughout today, positioning as it always is within the Tour de France, but with the wet roads, it's going to really heighten that stress by quite a lot. Unless you've had a big accident, you can sit down and have a little chin wag.
John, would you like to wait until everyone comes back after their commercial break, or are you going to recipe now?
No, I'll wait. I'm a patient man.
Jono, I felt sorry for you yesterday. So for everyone listening at home, we have a little FaceTime call with all the commentators on, and Jono's on there as well. And because 2 days ago, and because of all the action happening, Jono was just sat there for a good 5.5 hours waiting to talk. But as you all know, there wasn't really an opportunity for him to give out his recipe. So I'm glad today's a bit quieter for you, mate.
Oh, you're very kind. Yeah, it was a fascinating watch, but it was a hard, an arduous challenge sitting in this booth.
Oh, in Champagne country as well.
Yeah, I have so much to say about Champagne. So much to say. So many different foods to talk about, and the race was just too good, and that happens on the tour.
I think you missed the Nuit Saint-Georges day as well, which I know you would have been waxing lyrical about at the beginning of the race or earlier on.
Yeah, I've missed a lot of my favourite wines, but that's okay. There's more to come.
No real stress about any of the exchanges that we're seeing at the moment. Ben Turner just swiftly back and underway. If you're going to have some bad luck, any kind of technical, Danny, it's now that you want to get it.
Yeah, of course it is. There's no stress still. Here we're going to hear from Zach Dexter.
There we are. He wants the right gearing, Danny.
Yeah, he wants the right gearing. 56 at the front, so he is expecting a really, really fast final, clearly, Ben Turner. So getting back on his #1 race bike, and it's really important for riders to be on that, first race bike. Although it will be made up exactly the same, riders are very meticulous in riding the bike they're most comfortable on, and that will be their first bike. So now, no stress. It's a chance for him to get back onto that bike and get himself back into the peloton. So yeah, totally, Carlton. If you're going to have a problem, it's now.
And the Canal Berry, John, your chance to talk us about this amazing rowing line.
Yeah, it just says that it was the narrowest canal in France, and it looks pretty narrow there. So it got lots of use between 1829 and around 1841, but then as boats became bigger and the need to transport more took place, it became rather redundant, and it now looks rather redundant.
It does. Who's the chef in Padstow in Cornwall?
Rick Stein.
Rick Stein, yes. I remember him taking a little bateau down here, frying up the odd bits and bobs at the sides of the canal, bemoaning the fact that
that's how he loves sort of gourmet cuisine to be referred to.
Bits and bobs.
The odd bits and bobs, yeah.
Well, yes. Well, he can afford to do whatever he wants. Price of his fish and chips. Queued up for those in Padstow before, I can tell you. They were delicious. And with 116 kilometres to go, as you could say, there's no stress here, so it's time for the rather licoricey voice of John Harris Baxter to talk us through a recipe of the day.
I haven't done a casserole for these weather conditions. I've done some very tasty tarte de pois, which used to be one of my favourite go-tos when I lived in France and going to the patisserie. But I discovered when making these that they're not quite as simple as I thought they were. So it requires poaching the pears, which I'd never done before, which is putting them in water, white wine, sugar with cinnamon, bit of orange peel, bit of lemon peel, and seeds from a vanilla pod. Then making a frangipane mix, which is butter, orange zest, vanilla, egg, flour, almond and salt, and then a little bit of extra apricot jam and some flaked almonds. I cheated and used a roll of short crust pastry. I don't care what people think about that. I just didn't have the time, so I'm happy with it, and it produced a great result. And it takes its time to produce these, but I have to say that the finished product was well worth it. So at JHB, Foodie Cyclist for that recipe and all the others.
Okay, one little detail that a lot of you might not know about. I'm just actually riding next to the Alpecin de Koning team car. Now, the bikes are not racked up randomly on the roof rack at all, and it will depend on what the team's ambitions are for any particular stage. So for today, it is a sprint stage. So the way the roof rack will be racked up in terms of the spare bikes, you'll have Jasper Philipsen's bike on the outside. So that's really easy to get to in a difficult situation. And next to him, equally as important, of course, is the bike of Mathieu van der Poel. That will change for the GC teams. All the GC protected riders, their bikes will be on the outside. And to make it a little bit easier for the mechanic who sat in the back, a lot of the team cars will have a little diagram drawn on the back of the seat to indicate exactly where the spare bikes are for the rider that they need. So when they get out of the car, they can go straight there and not miss a second. Back to the commentators.
Thank you, Matt. All those little details, Danny, they make for a swift change, and it can be very dramatic if something happens late on.
Yeah, they make the difference, don't they? And there'll be that hierarchy, like Matt said, as to where the bikes are positioned on the roof and how quickly the mechanic can get to those bikes. So, of course, on a sprint day for Philipsen, his will be the quickest, most available to grab for the mechanic, and then Mathieu van der Poel being second, and then different for the GC guys and the teams looking after a GC rider as their main objective throughout the tour. So yeah, it's just all these little points, these marginal gains that can make a huge difference, especially in a final. If there's a problem in the last, 10 kilometres, you need that rider back on their bike as quickly as possible.
You may well have noticed just a few moments ago, we passed by what looked like a sort of a pounded chalk little area full of camper vans. And we've also passed over a tennis court. And I've got to tell you that it was a few years ago. I think it was in de Gaulle's time, so quite a few years ago. It was mandated that we had to have something called an aire de camping in France, and that is a free camping area. Yes, absolutely free. You'll find water, possibly a rudimentary toilet, but basically you can go all over France, and all villages, I think, with a population of more than 100 have to have an aire de camping. There's another number, I don't know whether it's a little bit more than that or close to it, where you've got to have a tennis court as well, which probably explains why, such a great heritage of tennis in France, but also why then was the free camping in every single village of that size? And the reason is it is an agricultural nation, and we have, or they had, itinerant workers who would actually travel around and indeed follow the seasons essentially, from the south to further north for harvest and things like that. There were also itinerant workers who were the cowboys of the wine industry, and they were called the disgorgers, and they had basically a little pin around their neck which would take away all the sediment from the pressurized champagne bottles. They'd stick the pin down between the glass and the cork and then just take out all of the sediment to give you a clear champagne, something I would have been waxing lyrical about with John Harris-Bass yesterday. But yeah, so these people needed somewhere to stay, and the aire de campings provide that. But now what they provide you is free camping. So if you've got a camper van, you don't have to pay for campsites. You can look for your aire de camping and go and enjoy it.
Yeah, Stevie Williams there, sorry Carlton, he's lost the arms on his glasses. I can
How
only...
on earth
Yeah.
do you lose the arms of your glasses? Oh, I love Stevie Williams. He is absolutely hilarious. If you've never met him, you need to, because he will put a smile on your face whenever you are with him. Always one to crack a joke.
Hey, nothing to laughing. Well, he'll be smiling and laughing as well because he's just signed a contract till the end of 2028, I believe it has.
Good lad. I wonder how he's done this. Looks like he's got the arms in his hands. I don't think it was a fit of proof.
Just a note there, Carlton, as well. Right at the front, we saw Mark Cavendish. Just a few things on Cav. We know he likes to fettle with his position quite a lot and change things around. On the first day of the Tour de France, he had on blue shoes. After that, he put white shoes back on. It is raining today, so maybe it's through that, but no remark, probably not. But also, he's not on the bike that he won on for his magical 30-stage 35 victory. He's back onto his black, white and yellow bike, which he's been on for most of the year, but he's black with the blue shoes today as well. So a few things just changed for him there. I'm not sure why. Once again, Matt Stevens, if you're asking, you could go and ask Mark Renshaw in the car if there's any particular reason, or if you see Cav, you're not allowed to interview riders, it maybe suggest somehow, but yeah, just always something different.
The bike's probably in the museum already. No, it will be at the end of the race, I am certain. It's going to be retired, never to turn a pedal stroke again, I would imagine. What an amazing achievement. I mean, with so much has happened, Danny, it's almost just one of the stories, but you know, but for Mark and many, it is the story of the race so far.
Yeah, it is. It's been a project for well over a year, hasn't it? He was due to retire in last year's Tour de France, but then broke his collarbone in a crash early on. And then the calls were made to Michael Morkov, who we've already talked about, who's just announced he's going to be retiring at the end of the year, to come across to Astana as the best lead-out man for Mark Cavendish, someone he's ridden with in the past. And that was when the project was on this quest for victory 35 in the Tour de France. So many people behind the scenes, you know, supporting in that victory, and we've seen it. People were talking about whether he'd done enough already this season, a couple of stage wins, but did he have the legs? Did he have the ability to, you know, beat these riders such as Jasper Philipsen, who we were picking up as a big favourite coming into the Tour? But he has done it, he's delivered, and that is just remarkable. And the resilience and how he's had a turbulent career, obviously such a successful one, but the way in which he's come back mentally through these ups and downs and people writing him off. You know, and last time he won here was 2013.
Amazing.
You know, it's such a long time ago, which just shows the, you know, how remarkable this man is. So yeah, chapeau to him, the whole team behind the scenes to pull it off, because it was a big one.
John, you're going to have to tell us about this arch and this beautiful medieval settlement.
Well, this is the medieval city of Menetou-sur-Cher. The medieval town wall was built in the early 13th century under the reign of Philip II, and you had 4 square gates, north, south, east and west gates. The west one has disintegrated, but the other 3 have been preserved. There was the l'Église Saint-Aubin in the middle there as well that we saw, and Menetou-sur-Cher is very famous for its andouillette. Now, andouillette, as those of you who have watched the Tour in the last decade will know, is my least favourite thing in France. I find it absolutely disgusting, but I had a fascination with it, and I kept on thinking, oh, andouillette, what's that? I should try it. And so someone one day just turned around and suggested to me, well, order it. And I did, and that is the one and only time that I've had andouillette. I even bought a sausage roll andouillette once by mistake, and that went straight in the bin.
Saint-Amand, our destination on stage 13 of the Tour de France in 2013. Well, if 13 is unlucky for some, then it was unlucky for just about everybody else. Mark Cavendish in the British Champions bands, bringing it home and looking absolutely emphatic. Peter Sagan was here, as you can see, sort of mustachioed Sagan, that version on the day. Kept beating him, Bauke Mollema, Jakob Fuglsang, Nicky Terpstra, Alberto Contador just cruising home in 7th place, keeping it safe back then. Happy days, I think it's fair to say. What a long career. And when you talk about sprinters, it's the most dangerous, the most focused thing you can possibly do as a sprinter. And usually, sprinters kind of realise their own, I guess, fallibilities, and safety becomes an issue as soon as you become a family man, that kind of thing. Mark has managed to keep doing what he does for our entertainment. He's amazing.
A big day for not only Michael, but also for you today. Possible bunch sprint. You won in the Finnish city 11 years ago in a crosswind drama. Good memories there?
Yeah, it was good. But no one was expecting it to split then. I think today people expected a split, so I think that's going to kind of stalemate it. And we'll arrive with a bunch sprint. Yeah, it was a very nice stage. It was a hard one. But I think it's the smallest group I've ever arrived at Tour de France with, I think 12 or 15 guys. And it was a brilliant job. On that day as well, the whole team got the combativity prize, which was only one time that's ever happened in the Tour de France, so it's a pretty special memory.
Have a good one today, Mike.
Thank you. It is amazing what he remembers about every single one of his victories. In fact, if he'd been pushed there, Adam, he would have told you how they approached it, what the final bend was like. He knows it all.
He does, yeah. Through each stage you have your story, and for every part of it you've got your chapters, you've got your sentences, everything else for it. But Mark has got a very good memory. But it's always, you know, when you're coming into these bunch sprints, you see so much more than what you think you do. You know, you're always a rider on your left, 4 places on your left. You'll have recognised how much time they've been in the wind, recognise how they've been the last couple of days around you. And all these things you start to put together, to think about, to place about, and that's all within the space of 5-6 seconds. You know, we saw the win that Mark got at this year's Tour de France, and it's just that little look across the left. It's like a tenth of a second that he looks, but it makes a huge difference. But he'll remember those looks. He'll remember the gears that he was in when he was jumping, all that kind of stuff. And it's incredible that he does remember it, and especially when there's 35 of them to remember.
Yeah, it's a remarkable part of his psychology. It really intrigues me with Mark, and we've seen him, you know, on social media taken to a Rubik's Cube and I don't know, video games.
Lego.
And Lego, yeah. And
Loves
it's
his Lego.
that again intrigues me as to what a part that played in so many of his victories. The capacity to be able to remember all these little infinite details, which I think will make a huge difference in the final. I've only won a couple of bike races in my time, and I can't remember anything like that. So I think it's just part of the puzzle that makes him so successful.
Well, they're busy beaming back to base at the moment, just deciding on how to take on the remainder of the day. And as you can see, it's all calm on the, well, we're not even on the western front, are we? Although we are sort of heading towards the centre of France, we will hook back down towards the Pyrenees and then remind ourselves that we're going back to the Alps as well. There's an awful lot of climbing still to come in this race, and in fact a lot of it stacked into tomorrow, Danny.
Yeah, it's a really tough day tomorrow, the second longest stage, 211 kilometres, so one of the most challenging stages, 4,350 metres of elevation, but it's the last 50 kilometres which is so savage, 4 categorised climbs and bonus seconds up for grabs. So one of those days that the GC riders would have highlighted. So yeah, we're in for a corker.
Feels Follett. I wonder where he parks his tongue when he's just watching telly. Pops out occasionally. I'm always fearful that he's going to bite the end off it, to be honest. But yeah, he stayed safe, thank goodness. Amazing part of the team. I wonder if Niels Follett would have fancied it today. Not a darling out-and-out sprinter, and certainly on other duties at the moment. He's big protecting role, of course, for Tadej Pogačar, a team of absolute superstars coming into this race. And of course, I think when we understood our favourites for the race itself, you had to include, well, a clutch of greats as well within that same team behind Tadej Pogačar. Charles Almeida, Warren Ayuso, Adam Yates, Soler, Wellens, Sivakov. There's no weak link at all in that unit. No wonder they are favourites, Adam.
They are favourites, and they've got, I think the Tour de France, as we all know, I know that the Tour de France there can be time gained on flat stages, there's time gained on windy stages. There's always a possibility for time to be gained. The majority, where that time comes from, is on the mountains. And if we look at UAE, they have got a team full of riders which are capable to climb. You know, you've got Niels Follett there, he can get over the first 2 mountains probably on a big mountain day, and then the rest of them, depending on the workload they have to do, they can all make it into the 3rd or 4th mountain as well. So yeah, on paper and any roads that start to go uphill, they have the best team on paper in this year's Tour de France.
paper is it's highly flammable, and anything can happen. And I kind of feared that that would be the case on stage 9. We've all talked about it roundly, Adam. Do you think the organisers kind of got away with it, or do you think it's just something that we can just applaud, and having enjoyed it so much, possibly, dare we say, look forward to it with however much trepidation to being back something similar again?
I think it should be back. I think it definitely should be back. There's always that risk of the punctures, and we never want to see a rider lose time or anything like that due to gravel or punctures. But punctures can happen anywhere, crashes can happen anywhere. Yes, a lot of it is out of their control massively on the gravel roads, but luckily for us, 2 days ago, we didn't have any of that. We didn't have any of the big crashes apart from Vlasov there, obviously, a couple of others that we won't really have seen. But in terms of the GT guys, there wasn't any big major issues. It was just Jonas with his bike, but he got back on, and that's part of the drama of the stage. That could happen in any stage at any given moment. So yeah, I think it should come back because, after all, this is entertainment for us. Watching a Tour de France is a massive part of entertainment, and as selfish as it sounds, we know how much effort it takes for bike riders, teams, commitment, time away from the families, etc., to be able to get ready to be in the best possible shape for this Tour de France. And selfishly, for everyone, for us watching at home, we don't really consider that too much, and we just like the entertainment side. But Bayek, along with that, it was flipping entertaining a couple of days ago. Brilliant.
Now, apparently, Intermarché Radio is saying that the wind is starting to pick up. I can't see it at the moment, Adam, but that may well be a feature of the day as we come away from what's been a relatively protected, in terms of the women's areas anyway, race so far. We haven't really had a full gusty day yet, have we? It's been reasonably benign as far as the wind speed is concerned. I mean, we've had some, but nothing like the hoolie that can really blow in areas such as this.
No, I think Cav nailed it earlier. I think a day like today, there is wind and it's up to 17, 18 k's an hour, and there are gusts coming in. But as we heard from the Arkea radio, they're all up at the front already. The teams will all be given instructions to be at the front. And Mark said on that day in 2013, similar stage, very well, almost identical finish in terms of where we are. No one was expecting the wind, and that's when the split happens, because no one was ready for it as such. But today, everyone is on their tiptoes, everyone's waiting for it, and everyone is ready. You can see at the front of the peloton now, just team after team after team stacked alongside each other, just in case anything happens. And with that, there probably won't be a split, just because of the stress within there, and everyone is ready, everyone is waiting for it. And when it's like this, no team wants to be that first team to start committing into what is maybe a 30 or 40% chance of a split. So yeah, I fear that for everyone watching at home that it's going to be like this, but this is part of the bike race, and then you do never know. There might be that one team that decides to really give it a go and spice things up, and then bike racing, as we know, is very unpredictable. We could have punctures, we could have touch wood, hopefully no crashes, and that interrupts the race, and what is the outcome of it?
We shall see. That's been the glory of this race so far, is we haven't really known how it's going to pan out until the very last. Turgis win yesterday, Gamay a double, Evan a pole, his victory in the time trial probably the most predictable of everything he's done.
No, it was raining before slightly there, but now it's 28 degrees, and this is really a lot of humidity, to have energy in the final.
There we are, a heavy day in terms of humidity, 28%, the rain is gone. I don't know whether it will be back a little bit later on. Apparently the wind will blow up with around 58 kilometres to go, and it's going to be across tailwinds. Let's see how strong that is. When you have storm activity, Adam, it can be difficult to read the weather conditions. You might feel, I don't know, just perfectly okay, and you can see the water bottles being brought up now, and everyone is being told basically to keep hydrated, keep sensible, and get yourself ready, because we don't know what's going to happen.
We don't know what's going to happen now. We know that there'll be a winner of this stage, but we don't know in what shape or form. Is it going to be a small three into the line? Is it going to be a late attack with those three corners? We've got under a kilometre to go. Someone maybe taking big risks. We don't know. These guys don't know, but the teams that want it to be a sprint will try and control the controllables as much as possible.
there is no part, it seems, of much of the race that isn't actually full of fans. It's possibly because it's a feed zone. They know that they might well be getting some goodies cast their way. I mean, I was going to ask you, Adam, when you were a kid, what was the best thing you ever picked up off the road at one of these races? But I don't know whether you ever went to one. I've seen grown men wrestle grannies for just a bag of jelly sweets cast from one of the publicity caravans. The fans like their souvenirs, don't they?
By the time the bike riders get through, you've got your hardcore fans, haven't you, that want the bottles, that want something from a bike rider. But if anyone's been to the Tour de France, they'll know what the caravan is like. And the caravan is the sponsors of the Tour de France. So there's Haribo, there's all sorts that go through, loads of different foods, coolings, all that kind of jazz. But the caravan is about 10 to 15 minutes long. And I think it's 1 hour in front of the race. Yes, it's 1 hour in front of the bike race. And constantly throughout the route, they drive the route and they throw these little bits out, food, little bits of keyrings, as I said. So by the time the riders get through, if you're not a hardcore fan, you're probably not even thinking of it. You probably filled your boots and got enough food and Christmas presents to give for the next couple of years if you do it well.
Look at you banging on about food. Roy McEwen still chewing on his burger. Will be enjoying
Robbie's work. I'll back Robbie up here. He is doing a bit of he's doing some work in the background, so he's left me to it. I've said it's no problem. Me and you can chew the fat for a little bit longer, Carlton.
Well, we can also discuss the fact that Sheffield is indeed built on 7 hills, just like Rome, and the locals do say that, despite the protestations of John Harris Bass. Am I right, Adam?
Yeah, I'm going to say you're right, Carlton. I've not heard it before, but I will just agree with you.
You've never got the Just Like Rome T-shirt?
I've not, no. It's, I mean, I can see the similarities, but mainly with the weather.
I think it was when we had a few Italian footballers come and grace us quite a few years ago.
Can I just say, Carlton,
go on then.
John O'Harris Bass, I mentioned the FaceTime call, has just literally put his head into his hands and started shaking his head at
People
what
of
he's
Sheffield,
listening to with
you
us.
know your nemesis.
Oh, I just can't compete with the Northern Mafia. It's just...
Hey, you got something right, John. Oh, you're correct.
Two sides of the Pennines, like a pitchfork.
Can I just cut in here a bit? As much as I love describing Sheffield as the Rome of the North, we're just coming into some really interesting wine territory, which is brilliant. We're going to a break.
Go on then, fill your boots.
Well, we're coming into the territory here of Sancerre and Rue, both of which are really delicious white wines. Rue, I would say, vastly superior to Sancerre, but a lot more expensive as well. Sancerre, which has gone up in price spectacularly in the time that I've sort of known it, and actually I much prefer a Puy if I'm going to be spending that amount of money on a bottle of wine.
Wow.
Just a little further up the Loire, when we started out today, we went through Cheverny, or close to Cheverny, and they make amazing red and white wines, and they're nowhere near as expensive as Sancerre. However, they have again massively gone up in price, as all wines have, and I think the import duty paid now in Britain for French wines has gone up considerably, because of the vote that will never speak its name, and that it's a real shame. The accessibility of many of these wines now is becoming much harder to come by in the UK, and well, it's a great reason to go and visit France, I would suggest, and just have your table wines where it'll be much more reasonable. But Cheverny, if you ever are in the region in France and you get a chance to drink it, I highly recommend both the reds and the whites. Really crisp whites, fresh, refreshing reds.
Is it true, sorry Colton, if you mix red and white, that you get your rosé? Actually, I know the answer to this, actually. I know the answer to it already. It's
no.
Red. Yeah, it is no, but it's from red, white wine is from red grapes.
Yeah. Well, it can be.
Yes.
Not always.
I'll go as far as that.
I love the fact that you've decided to do this on the digital platform and not expose yourself to the masses.
And
but I think
Carlton,
That's up there with
Can you
Why,
please bring it
why
up?
does the sun burn when there's no oxygen?
Well, I was going to say it comes right up there with Adam's incredible punditry earlier, where he went, "We are pretty sure that there will be a winner at the end of today's stage," and I was like, "So am I. I'm pretty sure about that."
I have a killer question coming in from Doug. He says, "Does Rome consider itself to be the Sheffield of Italy?" I want to know. We'll find out from Rob Hart what that is in Italian. I'd love to hear the question. Rome, built on 7 hills, just like Sheffield. Well, all right, we've got the snooker. About the only win. 97.5 kilometres to go. Rattling over the level crossing. We've got quite a few of them today. I guess that's the nature of flat lands, and especially places where there's an awful lot of agricultural produce to be moved around, which used to be by rail and canal. We haven't had a hold-up yet, Adam, on level crossings, thank goodness.
Let's hope not as well, unless it lets the breakaway go out and we get a really exciting final down to the wire with it. Apart from that, we don't need to see them.
Hell of a workout.
A screen full of riders. There you go. From the heli shot, it tells you that today is about dealing with a distance. It feels like a transfer day, doesn't it? As we head ourselves inexorably south.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Highest 5 minute, 2:51. Wow. Good job.
Will indeed be a cross tailwind later on. Hasn't been a major factor so
What's
far.
this? Does this go back? Nah.
Raindrops like cherries, according to Matt Stevens on the bike. Probably sweet as well. You just never know. Purer than rainfall. So yeah, we shall wait and see.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. See you guys tomorrow. We have like a week plus of rides in a row, so tomorrow should be 40/20s. So that should be fun. Free ride on Sunday. Alright, looks good. See you guys tomorrow, 40/20s.
Ryan Gibbons, yes, he's got a fantastic lead-out train. If he's the man today, and because the only person that's left is their sprinter, so he's still got that train in terms of Little Trek there. He's got the firepower to do so, but respectfully, Ryan Gibbons isn't Mads Pedersen.